Okay, your name, please?
Terence Carlson.
Your address?
115 South 3rd in Lindsborg.
Okay, and your phone number?
785-227-2542.
Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
Where were you living at the time when you enlisted?
I was living on the farm in Lindsborg and going to college.
Why did you join?
Well, it was 1 month after Pearl Harbor. I enlisted in the Navy Reserve because I didn't want to go to the Army. And they let me stay in school then until I graduated in 1943, in May of 43, and then I had my orders to go to the midshipman school at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for 4 months, then got my commission as a lieutenant junior grade.
Do you recall your first days in the service?
Yeah, it was kind of tough. We were about 1,000 guys at Notre Dame. We were all graduates of college, and they made they had the purpose of getting rid of about 20%. You know, just by we had hard studies, and we had a lot of physical training and marching and all that kind of stuff.
Did you have to, what were some things that you had to do? Like, did you have to go running every day?
Oh, yes, we did marching. And I guess we did some running, I don't recall that. But then it was a lot of intensive studies. And we were, you know, we got the Saturday and Sunday off, otherwise we were tied to the school there.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Not really, no. They were large classes, you know, and I don't remember anyone particularly.
Which war did you serve in?
World War II.
Where exactly did you go when you were there?
After my training at Notre Dame, I had 4 months more of diesel training out in Berkeley, California, University of California. And after that, we were sent to form a crew on a ship. We received a brand new landing ship built in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and we took that down the river, Mississippi and Ohio and Mississippi rivers, and then went to around Florida and trained there for a while, and then went to Norfolk, Virginia, and loaded there for going overseas. And we went then to the Mediterranean. It took a couple weeks to get there, and from there on we were working, hauling some troops and equipment, and we landed in southern France in August of 44. It would be. The Normandy invasion in northern France was in June. We landed in southern France in August, and we actually landed on what as the Riviera, in the vacation spot for Europe. We landed our ship there and unloaded there, and the war, it wasn't very difficult landing because the German Air Force was pretty well committed up north and had been damaged a lot in the fighting up there. So we didn't have a lot of opposition. There was some shooting and some casualties, but not very much. And after that, we would make trips from Italy over to France with hauling troops and supplies.
Did you see any combat at all?
Well, this was, you would call it combat, slight. I mean, it wasn't heavy combat like some others had.
Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
Oh my. See, this wasn't the end of my training or my service. See, I was there for several months. And President Roosevelt died when I was serving on this ship in April of that year of 45. It had been 45, and so shortly after that, I got orders to leave my ship and go back home on a 30-day leave, and then got sent to the Pacific Theater. And that was when my wife and I were married on a 30-day leave. And then I got sent out to Okinawa to another LST. A LST is a landing ship tank that was 327 feet long, and it had this ramp on the front, and the bow doors opened up, and then you could trucks and vehicles could drive right out on the beach. It was a very useful ship. I was on one. The first one was number 692, and the second one was 959. And the one I got onto in the Okinawa area, it was only 2 weeks. I got on it on last of July, I believe it was. And then the atomic bomb was dropped on Japan in August, and it was then the Japanese surrendered in 2 weeks after that, I believe it was. And from then on, we went up the river in China up to Shanghai, and we hauled the first shipload we hauled was a bunch of Japanese prisoners of war. We loaded, I think it was about 1,000 of them. On the deck was just every space. They just had very little space to sit, but we hauled them back from there to Japan and unloaded them there. And we thought maybe we would continue that, but then they changed us and refitted our ship to haul. The Chinese army of Chiang Kai-shek, I suppose you've heard of him, but they were fighting the communists in China, and we hauled troops from Shanghai up north to Manchuria. We made several trips there. I don't remember. It took about a week each trip, I think. And then it was from there that my time came that I could be released from the service. So I was sent home and got out of the Navy then. I had to go to Chicago to be released, and it was May, I think it was, of 1946 that I was released. And I stayed in the reserves. See, I was an engineering officer on this ship, on both ships. And when I came out, I was still in the reserve, but after the Korean War got going, I resigned my commission, because by that time we had 3 children, and I was farming. I taught school some too, but that's the way my Navy career ended.
Were you awarded any medals or
No.
citations? Did you stay in touch with your family, or how did you stay in touch with them when you were?
Wrote letters.
Wrote letters.
Yeah. It was my fiance at the time first, and we wrote letters every day. And when I went out to the Pacific, there was a period of time where I received no mail, 3 weeks maybe or something like that. And when we got to get the mail, there was a whole stack of letters, you had to go through. And I kept in touch with my parents too. And I had a brother that was serving in the Air Force. He was over in India. And he was a mechanic on an airplane, and they would fly the hump, they called it, the huge mountains, you know, from India to China. And one of the times he had quite an experience because his plane iced up flying up there, and they had no means of de-icing in those days, and so they either had to crash or parachute out. And they all parachuted out, and they all made it. They were scattered, you know, they didn't land all in the same spot because the plane was moving, and they landed in the forest, and they were able to go down, follow the streams down, and they finally got down to where they got in touch with Americans. But he was reported missing in action to my parents for about 2-3 weeks, I think it was. But he was saved from that. But one of the boys in his crew had his parachute catch high up in the tree. And they didn't know what to do. They didn't want to leave him there and just, you know, die. They were even, probably shouldn't say it, but they were even thinking of shooting him. But for some way or other, he got wiggled down and was able to get down. And well, it was God's blessing on them, I'm sure. But so they all were able to get back safely.
What was the food like?
Food was, well, it was pretty good, really. See, in those days, things were different. The officers all ate at a table in the wardroom, I believe we called it, and we were served by colored boys. See, the colored boys were not treated very good at that time, but they did the service jobs like that. So that's one thing that has changed much to the benefit of them now, because they have equal rights, or at least much better rights. But they were nice kids, and just behaved well, and so we were treated very well. That is one reason I thought of Navy rather than Army. In the Army, a lot of times you're in trenches and you know, out in the weather and all. In the Navy, you always have a roof over your head unless you get sunk. That's.
So did you have plenty of supplies when you were out? Did you have lots of supplies?
Yes, we were okay. There are times, you know, you were a little questionable if you had enough, but we had enough.
Did you feel any pressure or stress when you were doing your job?
Any
stress or pressure?
Yes. When you were in combat area, you'd go to general quarters, they called it. And then my job was down in the engine room to, you know, watch how everything was going there. And it was stressful. I mean, you didn't know when you could be hit by a shell or a airplane, a bomb. And of course, you're down in the engine room, you'd have much less chance of getting out than if you were on deck. And
how did you entertain yourselves when you were out there?
We had some movies, and I always liked to read, and I listened to the radio a lot because I always wanted to follow up on the news, and and I was very busy with my job, because when you come on to a responsibility like that, you have a lot to learn about all the engines and the generators and all that stuff you have to keep running. And it depended on the men. If they were good, the officer job was much less. But if some men goofed off, you know, then the officer was responsible. So it was stressful that way.
Did you remember any humorous or unusual events that happened?
Oh, no, not really. I I was just grateful that we had no one injured on our ship or killed on either ship. Thankful for that. Don't really recall. I have one thing I have regretted since is I never kept the daily log of where we were and what we did and any events like that. See, so many of those things are kind of forgotten after it's almost 60 years, you know, now. So.
What did you think of the officers or any fellow soldiers that were with you?
I appreciated them. They were all, well, very dedicated people. And some of the men working for me were down in the engine room were older boys. They were, well, some of them in their upper 30s, you know, and then some were just kids out of high school too. But I did have one man that worked in the engine room that I have kept in contact with, and I got to see him. He stopped here after he traveled out west, and we stopped to see him in Florida too. So I've seen him 2 or 3 times, and we kept in contact over Christmas. He's now in his 90s because he was one of the older guys on the ship.
After you were after your service ended, what did you do right after your service ended?
Well, when I first came home, my brother and I worked on some construction projects here at Bethany College, and then I started farming right away, and then I taught school for 1 year, but since then I've been full-time farming.
So did you make any close friends while in the service?
Oh, yeah. I might mention that I had a very interesting experience when I was at Notre Dame. One of my roommates was named Carlson too, and after midshipman school, had no idea where each of us went. And here, about 2 years ago, I think it was, I got a call from him. He's a Swedish guy too, and had been over in Sweden, and he wanted to locate some place where he could get plans for Swedish furniture. Well, he couldn't find anything up, and he lived in the Boston area. That's where he grew up too. And they told him, well, Lindsborg has a place, Lindsborg, Kansas has a place, a catalog for that and so forth. So he called these people here in Lindsborg. I guess, I don't know if it was which store it was. Anyway, then he asked, do you know Terence Carlson? So they said, sure, he's here. And so then he called, and my wife talked to him first because I was gone. Then when I came home, I called back, and we had a nice visit. It was interesting. He lived on the seacoast there in Boston, and had been out on the water, you know, done a lot of sailing and stuff like that. When we were at midshipman school, I had never even seen the ocean. And so we both went into the Navy, but it was entirely different experiences previously.
Did you join a veterans organization of any kind?
No, I haven't joined. I'm sorry about that. I should have.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Yes. I don't like war, but sometimes it's necessary, and I do believe in a strong defense for our country. And I support the military, but I know that things can be done very wrongly by people in power and that are not motivated correctly.
Do you attend any reunions?
No, our ship had reunions for a number of years, but it was always in the east of Pittsburgh or that area. And well, I was so busy here with the new family, this big family, because we had our 6 children within 12 years of the end of the war. So I didn't go to any of the reunions.
How did your service and experiences affect your life? Did they have any big changes?
Well, it was mostly a good experience, and being an officer, I was paid a little better than an enlisted man, and I did not waste my money on running around, at bars and gambling and all that stuff. So I saved money, and we had some money then when I got out. So that's when we bought a farm right away when I got home, and that got me started in farming. And the training, the experience, and responsibility, I think, was good for me.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this that we didn't cover in the interview?
What was that?
Is there any other information you'd like to tell us about, or any stories that we didn't cover?
Oh, I don't believe so. I think I was quite pleased with our leaders at the time. Maybe a little disappointed in the fact that before Pearl Harbor, we had a lot of warnings of Japan being aggressive, and I think if our leaders had alerted the people more at Pearl Harbor, they could have saved a lot of lives and would have kept their ships out from the harbor where so many were destroyed in that attack.
Okay, I think that's all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.